Do you consider that a directive to the Justice Department?
Senator Klobuchar, President Trump is the most transparent president in American history. And I don't think he said anything that he hasn't said for years.
Okay, it has been reported that you initially pushed back against requests by senior Trump administration officials to push out or fire the acting U.S. Attorney in Virginia, Eric Siebert, who's a conservative Republican, who made the decision that the evidence was not there to prosecute Comey. What made you change your opinion?
I am not going to discuss personnel decisions.
Okay.
If you love fearless, unapologetic commentary from a pro-America perspective, hit subscribe right now. Smash the like button. Drop a comment. Tell me if you think this was oversight or pure political theater. And share this video so more people can see what's really going on. Welcome back to Right View Nation. So here's the setup. Senate Judiciary hearing.
Recognized.
Thank you. Attorney General Bondi, good morning. I'm going to start on a different subject.
Good morning.
On behalf of families in my state. And I wanted to thank the FBI and the local justice officials in Minnesota, the U.S. Attorney's Office, for the work that they did catching the murder, in the horrific murder of my friend, Speaker Melissa Hortman, and her husband, and the shooting of Senator John Hoffman. Just last month, my state was again shaken to its core when a mass shooter attacked Annunciation Catholic Church in Minnesota, shooting through the stained glass windows, injuring 21 people, including 18 kids, killing little Fletcher, little Harper, an 8 and a 10-year-old, murdering them when they're in mass praying, 12-year-olds protecting 8-year-olds. I know we've spoken about these tragedies, and we both agree that this kind of violence, whether in Minnesota or at a Mormon church in Michigan or the assassination of Charlie Kirk, has no place in our politics or in our democracy. In 2018, after the Parkland shooting, you were Attorney General, and there was a bill called the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Act. And the bill banned bump stocks, enacted red flag laws, and raised the minimum age to purchase a firearm in Florida from 18 to 21. And you actually defended the law in court from a challenge from the NRA. And we know that I'm in favor of an assault weapon ban, period. I look at these bills and I think, does this hurt my Uncle Dick in the deer stand? We have a proud tradition of hunting in Minnesota. I don't think they do. But as I talked to Director Patel, and he told me in the chair you are sitting in right now that assault weapon bans could prevent future attacks. I talked to him about better background checks, about red flag laws, and then that perhaps we could find common ground on what actually happened in Florida, which would be to at least change the minimum age for purchasing assault weapon, because we've got 18 to 20-year-olds commit gun homicides at over triple the rate of adults 21 years and over, even though that wouldn't helped in Annunciation Church because he was a few years older. She was a few years older. But as you know, the shooter at Parkland was 19 years old, and the shooters in Buffalo and Uvalde were both 18 years old. So given your efforts in Florida, do you agree that at least raising the age for purchasing assault weapons could reduce the number of these shootings?
Senator, first, that's pending litigation, and I can't discuss that at all. The 21 is pending litigation. I cannot discuss that.
In Florida?
But if I could go back
I really
the
didn't know
21
this.
age is pending litigation. I can't discuss that. But Senator, back to what you said about what happened in Minnesota, there is no place for that. And I believe I spoke to you after that horrific, those murders. And I'm so sorry that happened. And all of my federal agencies were partnering with state agencies, working hand in hand in Minnesota. What I can tell you about the Second Amendment is this is the most pro-Second Amendment DOJ in American history, as you know. But we want to keep guns, as you said, where they should be, in the hands of law-abiding American citizens, while keeping them out of the hands of criminals and gangs. Since January 20th, the ATF and FBI have seized more than
you gave these statistics.
30,000
I really
illegal
was,
guns.
I have 10 minutes.
30,000,
You have
Senator
given these
Klobuchar.
statistics, and I truly appreciate those statistics. But what I was just trying to get at was something where maybe we could find common ground on a bill that you actually defended in court in a state, which Director Patel seemed open to, and that was looking at could we at least raise the age to 21 of the purchase of an assault weapon federally while states look at banning these weapons overall, given these little babies that this gun is used to kill. So we can talk about it later, but that was my question, and you don't want to answer it.
No, it's pending litigation, Senator.
Okay. But your views on this is not pending litigation. So I want to get to the independence of the Justice Department. At your nomination hearing, I specifically asked you to provide assurance to every member of this committee that the Justice Department will only follow the facts and the law, and the White House will play no role in the cases investigated or brought. You stated in response, this was you, politics will not play a part in my decisions. And you also said the Justice Department must be independent and must act independently. Do you believe that you have upheld that commitment?
I absolutely have upheld that commitment, Senator. I pledged that I would end the weaponization also of the Justice Department, and that America would once again have a one-tier system of justice for all. And that is what we are doing in this country.
We saw this with the president directing an investigation prosecution of Chris Krebs, the former head of cybersecurity, Lisa Cook, who is a current governor of the Federal Reserve, Director Comey. And the president, and I know you have said that you will not discuss discussions you've had with the president about Comey. Is that correct? That you won't testify here about that? Because I was going to ask you if you received advice, instruction, or request from anyone at the White House to direct the department to engage in any investigations, prosecutorial actions, including decisions not to investigate or prosecute anyone.
I'm not going to discuss any conversations.
But then how about the Truth Social post on September 20th, 2025, in which the president said, we can't delay any longer, Pam, using your name, not bringing criminal charges, are killing our reputation, his words, and credibility. And then goes on to tell you to prosecute a member of this committee, to prosecute the Attorney General of New York, and to prosecute James Comey. Do you consider that a directive to the Justice Department?
Senator Klobuchar, President Trump is the most transparent president in American history. And I don't think he said anything that he hasn't said for years.
Okay, it has been reported that you initially pushed back against requests by senior Trump administration officials to push out or fire the acting U.S. attorney in Virginia, Eric Siebert, who's a conservative Republican, who made the decision that the evidence was not there to prosecute Comey. What made you change your opinion?
I am not going to discuss personnel decisions.
Okay. Is it true that the career prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia found that there was insufficient evidence to bring criminal charges against former Director Comey?
I am not going to discuss pending cases because Comey was indicted in the Eastern District of Virginia by, I may point out, one of the most liberal grand juries in the country.
Okay, let's go on to other firings or terminations. Last week, the Justice Department fired at least 2 senior attorneys in the Eastern District of Virginia, including the office's national security chief, Michael Benary. It is reported that his firing came following criticism from a right-wing social media commentator who wrote, "One can only assume he was part of the internal resistance in the Comey indictment." In fact, he did not work on the Comey case. Instead, he was working on pursuing justice for service members killed in Afghanistan. How does firing a 20-year national security prosecutor enhance public safety?
Senator Klobuchar, I'm not going to discuss personnel decisions, but the personnel issue that I'm having right now is that all of my agents, all of my lawyers are working. My agents are on the street working without a paycheck because your party voted to shut down the federal government.
Unfortunately, the House isn't even back here. They're 18 days off the job to even meet with us to come up with a resolution that we would like to discuss with them about saving people's health care. Let's move on to the Antitrust Division. Did you authorize your chief of staff to overrule top officials in the Antitrust Division to settle the challenge to the Hewlett-Packard Enterprises Juniper Networks merger?
Senator Gail Slater runs my antitrust unit, and she is doing an excellent job on many, many cases. As you know, that is a pending case.
Okay.
In any merger, just to clarify, in any merger, Senator, there is a deal struck with our office and with the corporations involved, but then that also goes to a court to certify in any merger. In any merger, it's a multi-step process.
Okay, I
And
will
that
ask some
process
further
is still pending,
questions
Senator
about
Klobuchar.
antitrust. I just had one other thing. DOJ can now take the extraordinary step of subpoenaing
expired.
journalists. Has the Justice Department issued any subpoenas to journalists under the updated guidance?
Time has expired.
Okay, I'll ask
You
those
may
on the record.
respond.
Senator Klobuchar goes straight at Bondi with a point-blank question about a Truth Social post, specifically referencing a post dated September 20th, 2025, where President Trump publicly criticized delays and called for prosecutions of certain high-profile political figures. And that's the first thing to understand. This wasn't asked in good faith. It was asked for one reason, to create a soundbite that says, Bondi takes orders from Trump. That's the whole play. Because if they can brand the DOJ as Trump's DOJ, they don't have to answer the real question Americans are asking. Why does the system look like it has two sets of rules? One for connected elites, and one for everybody else. Klobuchar's angle is simple. She describes the post, then asks Bondi if she considers it a directive to the Justice Department. Now let's be honest. If Bondi says yes, headlines read, AG admits Trump directing DOJ prosecutions. If she says no, they clip it and say, AG refuses to condemn Trump pressure campaign. It's a trap either way. Political theater. And Bondi's response, whether you like her style or not, stays in a familiar lane. She doesn't validate the premise, and she doesn't give the opposition the neat little quote they came to harvest. Let me translate what's going on in plain English. The senator wants to turn a public post into proof of improper control. The AG knows anything she says becomes a weapon, edited, spliced, and blasted across the internet. So she resists playing the game. That's not dodging. That's surviving Washington's manufactured outrage machine. A president commenting publicly is not the same thing as a courtroom verdict. A post isn't evidence. A post isn't a grand jury. A post isn't due process. But Klobuchar wants you to think, if Trump says it, the DOJ must be compromised. Meanwhile, where was that energy when Americans watched politics seep into institutions over the last decade? Because if we're going to talk about independence, let's talk about consistency. A lot of these same people suddenly discovered DOJ independence when it became useful as a talking point. And they discovered dangerous rhetoric when they could attach it to a political enemy. You can't demand independence only when the other side is in power. The post that Klobuchar references, again, dated September 20th, 2025, was framed as Trump pressing Bondi to act, including calling for prosecutions of named figures. Now here's my view as a right-leaning patriot. That post is Trump doing what he always does, being loud, public, and impatient with institutions he believes move too slowly or protect the wrong people. And I'm going to say something that might shock the comment section. I understand why people cheer it, and I also understand why it makes people nervous. Because America does not need justice by social media. America needs justice by evidence. So if you're on the right, you can hold two thoughts at the same time. The American people are tired of watching powerful figures skate. The DOJ still must do it the right way, by the book, because if we destroy due process to win, we lose the country. That's not weakness. That's constitutional maturity. Klobuchar isn't asking, how do we restore trust? She's asking, how do we brand you? Because the left's strategy is simple. If they can convince half the country that any attempt at accountability is political revenge, They can keep the system frozen, where nothing ever changes and nobody important ever pays a price. And Bondi, in that chair, is facing the impossible demand of modern politics. If she investigates something, she's weaponizing. If she doesn't, she's covering up. If she refuses to answer hypotheticals, she's dodging. If she answers, she's confessing. That's why these hearings often feel like reality TV, because they're built for clips, not solutions. And yes, there are full transcripts floating around of that broader hearing. You can see how these exchanges are structured to generate conflict, not clarity. Here's the question I want answered, and I want it answered without the slogans. How do we guarantee equal justice under the law, no matter who's in power? Because if your definition of independent DOJ is independent when it protects my side and corrupt when it investigates my side, then you don't want justice, you want tribal immunity. And to the people who say, well, Trump shouldn't post stuff like that, fine. Criticize it. Debate it. That's America. But don't pretend the solution is giving the same political class more unaccountable power while scolding the public for noticing the double standards. What you just watched was not a senator protecting democracy. It was a senator trying to manufacture a narrative. That Trump posts equals DOJ marching orders. That public pressure equals corruption. That any accountability equals authoritarianism. And I'm not buying it. If you want to criticize Trump's tone, fine. But if you're going to lecture the country about institutions, then show us institutions that work for the people, not just the well-connected. Pam Bondi didn't give them the headline they came for. And that's why the clip exists, because the outrage is the product. If you enjoyed this breakdown and you want more straight-shooting reactions from Right View Nation, do 3 things right now. Subscribe, like this video, comment below. Was Klobuchar doing real oversight or playing politics for the cameras? And share this with someone who's sick of the double standards. I'll see you in the next one. Right View Nation out.